Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and today I saw something that I thought called for some commentary from our team, so you can kind of get the real truth from people that do care about Black people, who aren't going to necessarily try to be glamorous all the time. We're just going to try to give people what they need and what they're looking for. The other day, a guy named Kama Bell went on to the Bill Maher show, and he had a little trip-up situation where Paul Ryan's quote about inner city men was brought up, and then he contrasted that with a Michelle Obama quote. And I just thought it was interesting to talk about, and I wanted to kind of hit on this. And to do that, I brought in my homegirl, my partner in crime, Miss Yvette Carnell out of Atlanta. How you doing today, Yvette?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing very well, very well. I call it, Yvette is so great. I'm going to tell everybody this, that, I call her like on a Saturday afternoon on her birthday. And I said, hey, we should talk about this. Let's talk about this. And Yvette's like always down for the cause. You know what, Yvette? People can never say you don't love Black people, because you will even make Black people mad standing up for Black people. And that's a real Black leader, in my opinion. I salute you. With the
it's a gift. It's a gift.
Yes, you are gifted. You are gifted, and and it's an honor to have you on my team. Some things happen for a reason, and it's the craziest thing that people don't know this too. I was a huge fan of Yvette's writing before we met. In fact, Yvette was the only other writer where I would read her stuff and be like, man, I really want to read this because I really like it. I don't honestly end up loving other people's stuff that much. And Yvette just happened to reach out to me on Facebook, and the rest was history. We just started working, and it was the right time too, because I was just starting up with the Your Black World project, and you were the first person I invited to work with me, and it's just been amazing. How long has it been, Yvette? How many years have we been working together?
It's been since like late 2010, honestly. It's been a long time. Yeah, 2014 now, so it's been a minute.
Wow, this is great. This is great. You know what excites me about what we do is that I feel like we're able to do something that really you don't really see anybody anywhere else. I think that we reach number one, we reach a lot of people. We get probably 200, 300 subscribers every day. But then second of all, we're not owned by corporate America. We're not owned by the Democratic Party. We're not even owned by Black people. We're not owned by anybody. We're just owned by the truth. And I think that allows us to do something unique. Do you agree?
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. That's why I'm here.
Yes, absolutely. Now, speaking of that, you have brought something to my attention about Kama Bell, who I looked him up. I didn't know much about the guy. He's a stand-up comedian, but he was on the Bill Maher show, and he said some things that ended up, to some people, making him look a little embarrassed, where they brought up the Paul Ryan quote about inner city men, basically where Ryan was implying that inner city men have a culture of laziness and a lack of work ethic, and that's the reason for their demise. And so they asked Kamal. Am I pronouncing his name right? Is it Kamal Bell?
I think it's Kamal. Is it Kamal? I think it's Kamal. It could be Kamu. I think it's Kamal.
Okay, I know it's Kamau.
AU, right?
Yeah, and and I'm going to get the quote up, and so that people can kind of hear exactly what Ryan said, and just kind of like how that kind of led people to call him a racist. Let me see here. He said, too many of our young people just can't be bothered. They're sitting on couches for hours playing video games, watching TV instead of dreaming of being a teacher or a lawyer or a business leader. They're fantasizing about being a baller or a rapper. So that was Michelle Obama's quote that was compared to Paul Ryan's quote. And Paul Ryan had said that men not working, that the inner city problems generate from men not working and just generations of men not even thinking about working or learning the value and the culture of work. And the way Kamal got sort of busted was when he quoted Ryan, it was like, he's a racist. But then when he quoted Michelle Obama and made Kamal think that it was Ryan, first Kamal goes in again, and you see he's a racist, and then he says, actually, I'm sorry, the quote was from Michelle Obama, and there was total silence, which I love that tactic. I thought it was great. What did you think when you saw that clip, Yvette?
Well, the first thing was when I heard Bill Maher's clip, even though he attributed it to Paul Ryan, the second clip that was Michelle Obama's, I knew it was Michelle Obama's because I remember that quote from her speech at Bowie. That's where it came from. I mean, was it at her speech, her commencement speech there? Because Barack Obama also made a sort of wag his finger speech at Morehouse, so I knew that was Michelle Obama's quote. So I knew that Bill Maher was setting him up and giving him the wrong stuff. So, it was interesting to see him kind of go back into the same posture of, get ready to take on the racist Paul Ryan and then kind of back away when he realized that, it wasn't Paul Ryan, it was Michelle Obama. And then his rationale was, who was she talking to? Was she just talking to black people in private? Because we talk to each other differently. And it's like, yeah, we do talk to each other differently in terms of, you as a black person can go up to a black person and use the N word and I can't. But this isn't about that. This is about whether or not, you can substitute personal responsibility for policy. And both Michelle Obama and Paul Ryan were, seemingly implying that you can, that the problem with black people is black people. And you can't separate the two and say, well, it's kind of okay when Michelle Obama says it, but no, when Paul Ryan says it because he's a white Republican, it's a racist, it's a race baiting comment. No, they're the same. It's the same thing. And this is the thing that black people have gotten into. We cheer when Barack Obama wags his finger at us and says, the problem in black America is that there ain't no black daddies. Like, that's it. It's over. That's the end of the conversation. We cheer when he wags his finger at us. But then when white people wag their finger and say, the problem is no black daddies, we're like, oh, you racist dog. So that's a problem.
Well, I muted myself there so you wouldn't hear me munching or breathing. But, I think that what's interesting is it's almost defendable that people will respond to Michelle Obama differently from the way they respond to Paul Ryan if they truly believe that Michelle Obama is fighting on their behalf. And you can almost compare it to the way we might respond differently from something that Newt Gingrich says, even when Louis Farrakhan says the same thing. If Louis Farrakhan says that the reason that black people are struggling is because you're doing this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, and this wrong, we do let him off the hook because we know that Farrakhan is out fighting for us. Farrakhan is being as critical of the establishment and the power structure that oppresses us as he is of the people who are being oppressed in their commitment to overcoming that oppression. A person on the outside, however, like a Newt Gingrich or Paul Ryan, is simply there to attack. I almost think about it like how my mother could come in all day and say, the reason you're not succeeding is because you're lazy. But if my sister would sit there and be like, yeah, you're lazy. But if my enemy comes up and says, the reason Boyce doesn't succeed is because he's lazy, my sister might defend me in my enemy's presence. So I think that in a certain context, what seems to be hypocrisy actually makes logical sense. But here's where I have to get off the boat here. I think that what's happened though is that we've made the mistake of comparing the motivations and the incentives of Barack and Michelle with those of other black leaders who are in the community really fighting for black people, whoever they may be. That's where the ambiguity comes in, right? For somebody who truly believes that Michelle and Barack are in there fighting on their behalf, really representing black people, standing up to the power structure, then they're going to accept those comments. But those of us who see, and I say us because I think I'm in that category, those of us who see them as politicians, who may or may not want to do the right thing, but who are typically incentivized to not do the right thing, who are incentivized to do what you said, substitute policy for finger wagging. I think those of us in that category sort of look at that comment from Michelle Obama and say, no, like this is no, don't do that. That's fine if you go out into the community and you leave the White House and you're a black leader and you're out here really fighting the power structure, then you can have a speech like that. But if you are in a position where you can implement policy that will improve the condition of those that you allegedly defend, then we want to see you fighting and advocating for policy, not just wagging your finger at the community. I think another small subtlety here too is I think that if Barack Obama or some black person that we identify with makes a critique of the black community, I think that people understand that it's a nuanced critique in that they understand not everybody's thinking that way. If a Paul Ryan says it, I think that there's sort of this feeling that, look, you're talking about all black people. You're attacking all black people. And of course, Paul Ryan's going to disagree with that. And I believe Paul Ryan when he says that he truly believes he's not a racist. I think he is a racist, but at the same time, I think Paul Ryan truly believes he's a good person. Maybe because he dated a black girl in college, and he probably has lots of black friends. He probably has lots of black people that are telling him that he's a great guy. And I'm sure if I met him, I'd probably like him because I've known white guys like Paul Ryan who don't really understand the root of their racism. So, what do you say that when someone might argue that, look, Michelle can say something like that, but Paul Ryan can't? Is that something that stands up, to that sort of, that sort of, I guess, scrutiny, or what do you think?
No, not at all. And here's why. Let's go back to your analogy. You said if a friend criticizes me, then it's okay. But if my enemy criticizes me, then I know he has no goodwill, and it's not okay with me. Well, let's go back to how we define friend and enemy. What has Obama done for black people that makes you think that he's a friend of black people? He hasn't, he came into the White House with both houses of Congress. He didn't offer at that time a jobs bill that had the potential, to have something embedded within that bill that would help black communities or that would help black inner city youth or that would help black unemployment at that time where he could really get something done. And he hasn't made the case. Look, I'm all for you failing. If you fail and you fight the good fight, then I don't have a criticism for you. But I've never seen Obama fight the good fight. So to call him a friend of black people is problematic for me. Now, the second thing is this. I get tired of the double standard. You never hear the right wing talk about, trailer park white people the way that black leaders talk about black people. You never hear somebody point their finger at the trailer park and say, the reason you people in the trailer and you don't have $2 to rub together is because you're lazy. You're just lazy white people and you run around here with your trailer parks and you get on Social Security disability. And the fastest growing recipients of food stamps are people in white Republican districts. But you have people like Barack Obama wagging their finger at us when there are three people for every one job. What do you want them to do? Don't talk about finding jobs when there are no jobs. So for me, it's a two-tier thing. First of all, you've not proven yourself a friend of black people to go in there and start going in. And the second part about it is when you look at it, it's just not feasible to make that critique right now. The economy is stagnant. You haven't done anything which has improved it. So why don't you look at yourself and take responsibility for yourself and the role of a president, the role of a black president? You should start by taking responsibility before you impose that upon anybody else.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, do you think that, Yvette, that maybe the reason that the president does talk to black people differently from the way he talks to everyone else is because black people, unlike everyone else, we're willing to accept that. Because we have so much self-hatred that we are very quick to accept the idea that the reason, we're a lot like the rape victim with low self-esteem who says, I wouldn't have gotten raped if I hadn't have been wearing that outfit, right? Or if I hadn't have been out late at night, or if I hadn't have been drinking that night. Do you think that we tend to blame ourselves for what's going on, and that's why we're more willing to accept Barack Obama's words?
Yeah, I do. I think we have low self-esteem, and I think a lot of us, and I may get some flack for this, but I think a lot of us don't read enough. If you spend some time in a book, you know what redlining did to the black community. You know that white lawmakers created the ghetto if you read. But if you don't read, then you're more susceptible to when people come to you with BS. You're more susceptible to buy into the stuff and be like, well, maybe, yeah, it's just us. Maybe, we just did this ourselves. We're just lazy. Yeah, because you don't know. You don't know how these laws impacted black people. And you don't understand that in order to undo this, you need laws. It was these laws, this systemic inequality was created by laws. And we need laws to undo it. So I think it is white supremacy. I think a lot of us have bought into white supremacy, but I think we could undo that if we were willing to read and understand how all of this came into play as opposed to, watching reality TV or watching Sunday football. You might want to pick up a book, so I think that's part of the problem. So, when I see it, it makes me sad because I'm thinking, no other community has to deal with this. Poor people are the same no matter where you go. They have a lot of things in common, but it's only black people who cheer when people call us lazy. When famous black people get up and say, the problem is us, we go, yeah, you're right. We're so full of it. We're so useless. We need to get our stuff together. It's like, no, you don't understand what happened to us. So I think it's real. And I think there are many layers to why we're so ready to buy into the nonsense that people push on us.
Well, I would say that one difference I would see with the black community versus, say, white Republicans talking to white people is that I don't think that white people feel the same obligation that black people do to take responsibility for what every other white person is doing. If I were to go into the white community and say, well, the reason that America is not succeeding is because you have people that live in trailer parks that smoke crystal meth and don't want to do anything productive with their lives, a lot of white people would say, yes, those people do that, and we don't like that, right? And in a way, you almost see the black community kind of having that same divergence, where there are middle-class black people who say that the reason our community is not prospering is because those people in the back are holding us back. They're weighing us down, right? So that when you have a Sharkeisha video or somebody doing the nay-nay or some black person that kills some other black person for no reason, it goes viral because everybody in the black community is saying, look at those people. They're really kind of saying, look at us, right? We feel an ownership and a paternalism over poor black people, the middle class, highly educated, upper class. We feel connected, because we come from that community, so we feel that we're entitled to be critical. But at the end of the day, it really is becoming kind of an us versus them kind of thing, and I think that's why people can cheer. I don't think people in the crowd are cheering because if I'm sitting there and I'm hearing Barack Obama say black men need to do this, I might cheer, not because I believe he's criticizing me. I'm cheering because he's criticizing them. As Uncle Ruckus might say, them new niggas over there. Uncle Ruckus on the Boondocks. That's my favorite show, by the way. And I'm so mad Aaron McGruder's not on the show anymore. But so in a way, I'm a believer that human beings are pretty rational, and that, whenever we see something that looks like a hypocrisy, it actually could be a hypocrisy that hasn't been thought out. But at the same time, maybe there's a rational reason. And what I find is that because black people have aligned so firmly behind the Democratic Party, we tend to want to protect our interests by not holding the Democratic Party accountable because we want them as our allies, right? I don't care. I think the Democratic Party has done a lot to hurt black people. I'm just not a fan. I don't take the calls. I don't fall into the hype. I don't believe in that stuff. But I believe a politician's a politician. They're all owned by corporate America. But for those who truly believe the Democratic Party supports them, in a way, it reminds me of when the CIA helped the mafia and these rebel organizations bring drugs into the black communities. It wasn't that the CIA said, hey, we really want more drugs in America, so we want to help you with this. I think the CIA looked the other way because they said, look, the good outweighs the bad. Having them as an ally outweighs the loss of overlooking, otherwise objectionable behavior. So when you talk about Joe Biden, who has said probably more racist things about Barack Obama than almost any public figure I can think of, or any public politician at his level, it's hands off. You're not going to hear Al Sharpton say a word about it. You're not going to hear Barack say a word about it. If Paul Ryan says the exact same thing, he's going to get attacked. Sharpton will be the first guy that they sick on Paul Ryan. But if Joe Biden says the same thing, he's not going to say a word. And I think that that's where we've made the mistake. It's not the fact that we're willing to protect the Democrats. If we believe the Democrats are really fighting for us, then absolutely it would make sense to a point to protect those that are your allies. You have to do that to form strategic alliances. However, the problem, though, is that the Democrats are not fighting for us. The Democrats, for the most part, are working to enslave us. They force us to get behind agendas that maybe we're not comfortable with. They force us to overlook things in our communities that are really destroying us. And I'm just not a fan of the Democratic Party, period. So I think that this guy, Kamal Bell, first of all, he's a comedian, which I think is kind of unfortunate because I think that for that kind of issue to come up, you really need somebody in there who knows how to get in the trenches and really break it down and explain it. Kamal Bell just kind of laughed it off. I think he was afraid to really confront Bill Maher on that little stunt. But in fact, if he were really read up on the issue, like you, if he'd had you on the show, you would have said, "Wait a minute, didn't Michelle Obama say that?" And you would have killed the joke before it even began. But I think that because Kamal was intimidated and he didn't really know exactly how to, think about this difference, he ended up making himself look silly. I'll let you get the last word, Yvette. I mean, what do you think, was kind of wrong here?
I think we have to be honest about something. And I think it's 2014 now. And I think we need, as black people, I think it's time for us to let the black respectability politics go. Let's be honest about something. From going back decades, you've had black middle class people and black upper class people who kind of, used black poor people as a way to say, okay, keep those Negroes over there. Even with housing policy, even with the Urban League back in the day, keep those Negroes over there, but give me my spot. And we kind of use that now as a psychological hierarchy for white people. Yes, I'm a good Negro. I'm a Michael Jordan type of Negro. I'm not one of those Negroes. I think about Chris Rock's little skit, I'm a black person, but, I hate niggas, that sort of thing. And that's a problem because it separates us at a time we need to be divided. This idea that, okay, we're higher up on the totem pole, so we get to laugh at poor black people who live in the ghetto.
You said we need to be divided.
No, I say we are divided. I say we are divided right now. And we're divided by class in terms of we have, the Jack and Jills who kind of, turn their nose at poor people. And we've always had that. We've always had black people who traffic in black respectability politics, who feel that if we become better people, white supremacy will go away. If we pull our pants up, white supremacy will go away. If black women stop having babies out of wedlock, white supremacy will go away. And white supremacy just kind of laughs at that because it knows white supremacy hates you no matter what you do. Like if you're CEO of a company, people who are racist are going to hate you. Like they're not going to start liking you because you behave more like, the predominant culture. So we have to take that apart and look at things. And if things are good for us, we should engage in them and do them and change them. But we shouldn't change who we are because of white people. We should change it because we need to change it to become more effective and become better at who we are, but not because we're just reacting to a standard that white people have set for us. That's a problem.
Well, I think that last point you made, that does clarify things for me because, I don't disagree entirely with those like say Farrakhan. I mentioned Farrakhan, I guess, because I have a lot of respect for a very large percentage of what he does. What he does particularly with black men. I mean, I think that if they're truly looking to help black men, they would give Farrakhan, some money or hold him accountable with the money and let him implement that into some programs. But that's another conversation. But I think that, when I hear people talk about elevating the black community, they point to other communities, namely the Jewish community, in terms of them sort of saying, look, we're not going to just be angry at people for what they've done to us. We're going to unify. We're going to pull ourselves together. We're going to fight together. You remember if you listen to Marcus Garvey's speeches, that's sort of what he says. He was very, very hard on black people. He pretty much said 100 years ago, you're caught up in buffoonery and silly things and childish things, and you're not willing to stand up and be men. You're not willing to stand up and be decent women and earn your right to be respected. You're not trying to become better people, which is part of the reason why white people kind of have their foot on your neck. But at the same time, during Garvey's era, black people were just being lynched for no reason. I mean, you had a lot of serious social justice issues. And so the question, I think, is, and this is, I guess, a liberal versus a conservative conversation, right? The question is, are we able to use policy to a point where it overwhelms or dictates human nature, human choices, right? Because many of us have seen people where
everybody else does it.
Right. Well, I think everybody else does it to a point, but I think that there are still people in America, in every group, who say, we're not really thinking about what the government's doing right now. We're thinking about what we're doing as a people. But at the same time, when you do that, you're going to have those divisions, right? You have, for example, the Christian right that says if everyone were to behave ethically and everybody was to go to church and read the Bible, the world would be better, right? And there are people who just aren't going to do that, right? And then you might have liberals who say if we love each other and support each other and build each other and empathize with each other, then the world will be a better place. But then you have people that just say, say, I don't do that. Or you even have people that take advantage of that, right? I know somebody who's an alcoholic who jokes and says, I can't believe they think this is a disease. Like I choose to continue to drink. I'm choosing to remain in my situation. I have some role in getting myself out of this if I wanted to. No, so I think it's there's room for all the arguments there. But I think that at the end of the day, when you talk about this particular thing with Paul Ryan and Michelle Obama, I think that I will say this. I'll go on record and say that you and I have always been just as critical of what an Obama might say as we are of what a Ryan might say, because we knew the dangers of these kinds of arguments coming up. Where people say, well, wait a minute, you're critical of white people but yet you have nothing to say when your beloved black president says XYZ. So when Obama's not in office anymore and people are saying that, I think people like yourself can come out and say, no, I spoke up when Obama was president. I spoke up when Bush was president. I spoke up when Clinton was president. It's not about the skin color of the person who's in leadership. It's about what they implement in terms of policy. Am I right? Or am I right?
No, I think that's true. I think that's true. And the only final point I would make when people tell black people to pull them up by their bootstraps is that white people who immigrated to this country didn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They did that by the New Deal, and the New Deal was kept from black people because white people, Dixiecrats in the South, made a deal with FDR to keep that away from Negroes as part of the deal to pass it. So nobody in this country has pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. People have been pulled up, whole communities have been pulled up by legislation. So the idea that we should live by that standard, and everyone else shouldn't, is a problem. And I think we need to really look at that when we tell ourselves, that it's going to be all personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is just one part. That's the first thing. The first thing you have to do is control yourself. The second thing you have to have is a government that doesn't treat you less than everyone else, a government that is fair. And we have to keep fighting for that, no matter what.
Absolutely. And part of personal responsibility means having the responsibility of confronting the government that isn't doing justice by your people, right? I mean, it all comes down to accountability and just saying, look, we're not going to tolerate differential treatment. We're not going to let you give all these benefits to white folks and then act like we don't matter. I don't give a damn if you're black, white, or any other color in the White House. Or in Congress or anything else. If you're not representing the interests of black people, then I think that those people should be confronted in those situations. My bottom line is this. If you want to deal with President Obama and every other politician you love in an effective way, treat them like you're the teacher and they're a student. When you are, and I know this because, I've been a professor. This is what we do. I don't care how much I love the student. It can be my own child in that class. But the way I evaluate you in every situation is going to come down to your performance on the last assignment. If you do poorly, I'm going to say this is garbage. I'm not saying you're garbage. I might say I hate this, but I don't hate you. But there's two different things. We have to differentiate that. And then when they do well, I say, that is so good. I'm so happy. That is amazing. But then the next assignment is independent. I'm not going to give you an A on the next assignment because you did well on the last assignment. So, so your grade is going to be a composite of how you perform on a multitude of assignments, not just sort of based on this unconditional premise that says, I love you no matter what. I just want to support you no matter what. I just believe in you no matter what. I know you're the best no matter what. No, if you don't perform like the best, then I'm not going to tell you that you're the best. And I think that's where black people screw up, is this sort of not all black people, but those who just believe in Obama no matter what. That's where you're messing up. You cannot treat a politician like he is a religious figure. He ain't your black baby Jesus. He's not your baby daddy. He's not this thing that you just have to love no matter what, that you have to pray to like he's a king or a god. No, he's a politician. He works for you. You voted for him. You went out and you gave him 95% of the vote. Any other group of people, if they give somebody 95% of the vote, they show up the next day and say, this is what we want in exchange for what we have given you. To give somebody that much of the vote and not ask for anything is like giving somebody a paycheck and not asking them to come to work. And that is ignorant. That's stupid. So we got to grow up. This ain't about loving somebody. This is about loving your people. If you love Obama more than you love your people, then you're a damn fool. Period. I'm done. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm
Me too.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Yvette. I really appreciate you dropping on Saturday. You are so amazing. And thank you all for checking us out at yourblackworld.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.